Welcome to the Explainer. You know how you can remember every single word to a song you haven't heard in a decade, but you have no idea what you ate for breakfast yesterday? It's weird, right? Our memories, they can feel so random, so powerful, and sometimes so fragile. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the science of how your memory really works.
Okay, so I want you to listen to this. The procedure is actually quite simple. First, you arrange items into different groups. Of course, one pile may be sufficient. After the procedure is completed, one arranges the materials into different groups again. Then they can be put into their appropriate places. Got it? Try to lock those steps in. Feeling a little lost? Yeah, that's kind of the point. This comes from a famous study, and let me tell you, people found it almost impossible to remember.
But what if I gave you a two-word title for that passage? Washing clothes. All of a sudden, boom, it all makes perfect sense, right? The items are your clothes, the piles are your darks and lights, and the appropriate places are the washer and dryer. And just like that, you've stumbled upon the very first, most crucial step in forming a memory: encoding. See, for any memory to even have a prayer of sticking around, your brain has to encode it first. It's got to take everything you see and hear and feel and translate it into a language it can understand and file away. Without that context, without that washing clothes title, the information is just static. It's noise. Your brain has no idea what to do with it, so it just tosses it. So, how you first encounter information pretty much decides its fate.
And here's where it gets really cool. Your brain uses different coding systems for different jobs. For your short-term memory, we're talking about things you just need for a few seconds, it tends to rely on an acoustic code. It's all about how things sound. That's exactly why if someone reads you a list of letters, you're way more likely to mix up B and V than B and R. But for long-term storage, the brain switches gears. It uses a semantic code based on meaning. This explains why you might remember a friend saying a dog was big when what they really said was large. The words sound different, but the meaning? Pretty much the same.
So how do we shuttle information from that temporary sound-based holding bay into the permanent, meaning-based library in our heads? It all comes down to rehearsal. But listen, not all rehearsal is the same. There's maintenance rehearsal, which is just repeating something over and over again. You know, like chanting a phone number while you run to find a pen. It works, but the second you stop, poof, it's gone. The real secret sauce is elaborative rehearsal. This is where you actually connect the new info to stuff you already know. You make it meaningful. And that connection, that's the superhighway to long-term memory.
Which brings us to something we've all done, the panicked all-night cram session right before a final exam. Turns out it's one of the worst ways to try and learn anything. It's a perfect example of something called the spacing effect. Look at this. Massed practice, cramming, it gives you pretty dismal results. But if you take that exact same amount of study time and spread it out over a few days, well, your ability to remember it just skyrockets. It's because every time you come back to it, you're forcing your brain to work a little harder to retrieve it, building a stronger, more durable memory.
And you know, one of the most incredible memory-boosting tools we have is something we do every single night: sleep. It is not just your body shutting down. Your brain is hard at work. You cycle through all these different stages of sleep, and while they're all doing something important, one of them is the absolute MVP when it comes to making your memories last. And that MVP is REM sleep. During REM, your brain is buzzing with activity. The hippocampus, which you can think of as the brain's temporary inbox for new memories, starts replaying the important highlights from your day. It's literally like your brain is running practice drills, strengthening those new connections and shipping the memories off to more permanent storage. So yeah, a good night's sleep isn't a suggestion, it's a non-negotiable part of learning. All right, so we've talked about how to make memories. But now we've got to talk about the big twist in the story. Our minds are not like video cameras. Memory isn't some perfect, secure vault where we store pristine recordings of the past. No way. Memory is constructive. Which means every single time you recall something, you aren't just playing back a file. You are actively rebuilding it from scratch. And in that rebuilding process, things can get changed.
And this idea that memory is constructive has massive, real-world consequences. Just look at this number: 77,000. That's roughly how many people are arrested every year in the United States based on what an eyewitness says they saw. But hang on. If memory can be rebuilt, if it can be distorted? How reliable can that testimony really be?
You want a perfect example? Check out the work of psychologist Elizabeth Loftus. In one of her classic studies, she had people watch a slideshow of a car accident. The car clearly runs a stop sign. But later, when she's questioning some of the participants, she casually asks a question that mentions a yield sign. And you know what happened? Later, when she asked them what they originally saw, a whole bunch of them insisted. They swore they saw a yield sign. A single leading question was enough to rewrite their memory of the event.
In fact, let's try a little experiment right now, you and me. I'm going to flash a list of words on the screen. Just read them and try your best to remember them. Okay, ready? Here we go. Bed, rest, awake, tired, dream, snooze, blanket, and yawn. Got 'em?
Okay, quick. Don't look back. Was the word sleep on that list? Just go with your gut. Yes or no? Are you sure?
It wasn't there. The word sleep was not on the list. If you thought it was, don't worry, you're in good company. You just experienced a false memory firsthand. Because every single word on that list, bed, rest, tired, is so tightly connected to the idea of sleep, your brain just went ahead and filled in the blank. It constructed a memory for something that literally never happened, just based on the theme. That's how active this process is.
Psychologist Daniel Schachter actually came up with a great framework for these memory glitches. He calls them the 7 sins of memory. And we've already bumped into a few of them. Transience, that's just memories naturally fading away. Absent-mindedness is when you forget your keys because you weren't paying attention when you put them down. Misattribution is remembering a cool fact but having no idea where you heard it. And suggestibility, that was our yield sign experiment. These aren't really sins or flaws. They're more like side effects of a system that's built for flexibility, not for perfect recording. Okay, so hearing about how flawed and mushy our memory is might feel a little unnerving. I get it. But here's the really good news. By understanding how it works, we can learn to work with it. We can absolutely take control and improve our ability to remember things accurately. And one of the best ways to do that is by using mnemonic devices. These are basically just clever tricks to help you organize information. You already know acronyms, right? Like HOMES for the Great Lakes? Then there's the method of loci, or the memory palace. You mentally walk through a place you know really well, like your house, and you place the things you need to remember in different spots. So for your shopping list, you might imagine a giant apple blocking your front door and a river of milk flowing down your hallway. It sounds silly, but these tricks force you to do that deep, meaningful, elaborative rehearsal we talked about. They work.
So let's just boil it all down. If you want to build a better memory, here are 3 core strategies. Number 1, practice, but space it out. Ditch the cramming. Use that spacing effect to your advantage. Number 2, make it meaningful. Don't just mindlessly repeat stuff. Find a way to connect it to what you already understand. And number 3, organize and visualize. Give that information some structure with things like mnemonics, make it visual, make it weird. Your brain will thank you.
And this all leads us to one last big provocative thought. We've learned that your memory isn't a recording, it's a story that you actively rewrite every single time you tell it. So the question I want to leave you with is this. If that's true, when you look back at your own life, your own past, how much of that story is fact and how much is fiction? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.